Hi everyone, my name is Hung. I'm currently running this program. Hi everyone, my name is Hung, and I'm creating a program called Texas Greenup Agentic System that utilize the API from the Energy Institute of America, or the EIA, to test and analyzing what the API um, do, as well as creating a better documentation system with the document writer and knowledge graph generator to also analyze and understand and writing an easier documentation for other developers to work on their um, solutions for for their energy problems, as well as like building an energy solutions with the scripts and the documentations that better help them understand how to implement their agentic system, how to analyze their APIs, and how to um, have a better way to understand what this certain like timeline of the energy evaluations really do, and as well as the hourly demand of the Texas energy system. So to really understanding how this really work, I come up with the idea of this project for a while ago when I think about the demand of the Houston, of the Texas energy in general, not just Houston, but this is also on the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, and there are a lot of metrics on how much demand it needs for every day, um, for every day at a certain time, where the energy is at peak hours, or basically their demands change every day, every hour. So to keep up with a certain amount of data that the EIA output for for ERCL, we have to keep track for a lot of dates and time. Choose a select day from the first quarter, from January to March, to really analyze about the demand that the resident in Texas really need to keep their houses, work, and everything in energy that keeps on going. And there's a lot of metrics to this. So we want to do an API analyzer that validate any type of agents who any type of agents that can analyze the documentation, strategy, and giving out strategy and validation for that documentations to understand how um, how these types of API works, as well as to give some details about the grid schema, as well as um, having a way to understand the new version of the API from the EIA to better operate, and giving the developers some context to implement into the system. So that was one of my idea, but as well as to help it easier, help the implementations going easier for the developers to develop their energy system or solutions in terms of alternative energy. I also developed a way to write this documentation flow, and we will basically test if the um, analyzer and the API generation, as well as documentation flow works. So this is for, first off, we gonna test for the API analyzer. I'll basically doing what I'm doing is to utilize all of the agents and the flow to test with the script for API analyzer, um, open API generator, and the analyzer flow and the flow of the API analyzer, as well as other validations that the script really needs to get the API analyzer work. So we can start with that. And we can see that every validation for the grid API has passed, from the endpoint discovery to the analyzer flow, to the agent's output being given and seeing that the flow integration and executions of all of these agents really worked has been complete within this time frame of 15 seconds each for strategy generation and validation. And now we're gonna test on the document run. So at this point we are using the flow to produce the documentation. And then after it runs, we can check the output with the docs, MD, Open API, YAM, as well as the sequences and the system overview. So right now I will approve this plan to read the docs as well as the current file of the Open API YAML, and also read the changes in the docs.md. So currently it will extracting all kinds of context in my agents as well as the file modifications, documentation in terms of architecture, and basically search all the features, identifying the documentations of what's needed to be added into the documentation, the structure of the project, as well as the Open API's format. So I'm approving this idea, and then it will confirm all documentation that's been created and modified. Okay. So I'll approve this. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention so much, but there we go. There's another thing about this being utilized. That means it will ask for my permission to start running the program. So basically not too much on the chat side, but more on the running the program side of things. And then it will basically help me generate the documentation. Yep, is that this step that is to update the doc of the Open AI API with the time, yes, from the schema. This is what it reads right now. This is where it would document the new schema, updating the edit file for single quote. So that's the time, right? That's a hourly time with double single quote. Instead of a double quote, it's got to be a single quote for the date format. And it's going to create a sequence diagram file. We're gonna utilize all our steps here to run the command confirming documentations re-modified, docsmd has been updated, verify all kinds of change using this. Now we're gonna check on the status. So there's the README and there's the docs. So we're gonna check on the docs, the changes in Open AI API. Open API, I'm sorry. So yeah, changes that's happened here. That's your so-called not Houston GreenOps agent, but it's actually the Texas GreenOps Agentic system. So this is running really well. So it's not just agentically processing all kinds of files for me, but it helps me create the documentation for the writer using the documentation generation agent that I have in my file. Although the specific challenge for this project is that I basically choose the wrong type of prompt for this as a pipeline builder agent, but the Duo Agentic platform has helped me run this documentation very good, as well as generating this document writer, as well as the grid analysis flow with using the mermaid sequence diagram. So one of my impact for this original idea is to help people or developers who wants to work on like energy system can able to implement any kind of API and analyzing them based on a certain amount of demands metrics, as well as like any changes for the trends during the hourly demand, to like understanding whether or not we can able to process the status of the grid and their hourly demands. Right now, the status and the hourly demand work, but in the future, we will able to give more to forecast as well as total intermission of energy system. But what I'm seeing the potential for this application is to help analyzing API implementations for software engineers to work on their software solutions for energy as well as other purposes. So building this API analyzer helps me understand the point of implementing energy information administration data source, and to understand how the grid data works. So yeah, this is Texas GreenOps Agentic system. Thank you.